Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Sports on the Positive Tip. We have conversations at the intersection of sports and faith. And because we have so much to cover today with the playoffs and the NFL, I'm going to cover two different things real quick, Kenny, here in our opening, because I couldn't let this story go by. Maybe we'll do a little bit more of a deeper dive as it unfolds. But the WNBA has had now quite a few issues. They're at a crossroads as they are now, packing arenas, which is great. They have a good TV deal, which is fantastic. They have the infusion of Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese and Paige Beckers, quite a few great players that have now come into the league. But there's some underlying stuff that is going on that no one is really talking about except Nafisha Collier when they were eliminated and she did this press conference. I want to just read a couple of things she said. First thing she said is that the refereeing is the most horrible in any professional sport. I'm paraphrasing that. And then she said that they have the worst leadership of any sport, starting with the commissioner. She called her out. I'm not a fan of revealing private conversations, but apparently at Unrivaled, which is that separate league they have back in February, she revealed, and she just spilled it, man, a private conversation she had with the commissioner. So when she asked the commissioner how she's going to fix the refereeing, she said the commissioner said, well, only losers complain about the refs. Then she also asked her how she planned to fix the fact that players like Caitlin, Angel, and Paige are clearly driving massive revenue for the league, but making so little in their first 4 years. Her response was, Caitlin should just be grateful that she makes 60 million off the court because without the platform the WNBA gives her, she wouldn't make anything. In that same conversation, she said she told me players should be on their knees thanking their lucky stars for the media rights deal that I got them. And by the way, you know who got them the media rights deal was Adam Silver, not the commissioner here. And so it is just Kathy Engelbert is the commissioner's name, and Stephen A. Smith and several others are now calling for her to resign. This is just, when you come out like this, and thank God that she did, it really unveils an underlying issue. What were some of your initial thoughts as you heard that?
Um, this is the last thing the WNBA
Yeah.
needs because they're already a little bit I feel like there's the fragility of we don't know how long this is gonna last, but there is a thing where most people in the most people didn't care about the WNBA until um Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese to some extent joined the league.
Yeah.
And yeah, the revenue deal, that's all, especially those two, especially that rivalry that people love to see.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then also you had a very exciting, the Fever made a nice little run. I
Yeah.
know they
Without
lost,
Caitlin Clark.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
so they're building momentum, and the commissioner saying that sounds really, really bad.
It does.
Um,
It does. The sad thing is that also there's a racial undertone here, as well, with them trying to pit, Angel Reese against Caitlin Clark. I don't know that there's any love lost between the two, but I don't think it has anything to do with race. We'll maybe dive a little bit deeper into that next week. Before we got on, we started recording here. I mentioned to you that there's 9 openings. You were a little bit surprised, but because I think we forget about the openings of the managers that got fired during the year. In Major League Baseball, there's 9 openings. The Giants, the Nationals, the Pirates, the Rockies, the Angels, the Braves, the Twins, the Rangers, and the Orioles. Which one are the best jobs out of those?
Probably the Braves,
The Braves.
especially since if they can be healthy next year,
They'll
they
be a
could
handful.
be almost instant contenders.
Yeah.
Um, the one that I feel the worst about though is the Twins. What do you expect Rocco Baldelli to do with losing half of his roster?
I
Kind of seems wrong.
I was thinking the same thing. How many players that they lost peeled off at the deadline? 11? I think they peeled off 11 players off of their major league roster at the deadline. That was very unfair, I thought. You got to give that guy another chance. Brian Snitker has been in the Braves organization for 49 years. So I don't think he got fired. They probably said, you know what, let's go in and change the direction. We're going to give you another job as an advisor. But I think he's also going to be 70 years old. We can dive into those, weave those in, but we've got a lot to get into. Today is Win or Go Home Thursday in baseball. You've got your NFL rankings here. I'm sure I saw that there's some changes that you made there. You ready to get into this? You ready to get into this?
Let's get into it.
All right, there we go. This episode of Sports on the Positive Tip is brought to you by the Tavern Coffee House. Attention, coffee lovers. Are you craving the perfect cup of coffee to start your day? Well, look no further than the Tavern Coffee House. It's located at 12302 Buckeye Road in Cleveland, Ohio. You can also check them out and order your coffee at thetaverncoffee.com. Hey there, everybody. This is Kenny and
Kenny Squared
with the Sports on the Positive Tip podcast. It is Win or Go Home Thursday. We're going to jump into these playoffs, and it's unfolding so far just the way I think both of us felt. This has been such an odd regular season with no great teams, a lot of very good teams, and so I think anybody could take this. And so many ups and downs in the regular season. Mason Miller throwing 104 miles an hour yesterday. I got to see some of that Padre Cub game yesterday, and he's dominant. But I wanted to wrap up the regular season here. As everyone knows, I've been a Met fan since I was about 5, 6 years old, and I'll say it for the record, I will continue to be a Met fan. But I want to try to put it in perspective. I don't want to be too over dramatic, but if this wasn't the most disappointing season for me watching Met games since 1967 or so, I have to say, man, I guess 2007, 2008 was really disappointing. We've only been to the postseason 11 times in our whole history. And only once, I think, in back-to-back years. I know a lot of people say, no, they've never been back-to-back years, but 2016, technically they were. They were in the wild card game against the Giants and they lost. And of course, in 2015, they went to the World Series. I guess what makes this so frustrating, Ken, is that I watched some guys have just tremendous seasons. And do you know the Mets overall have the number one, finished with the number one offense in all of baseball if they rank when they put all the rankings in? But they finished number 27 in pitching, which they were, when they got out to the 21 games over 500, they were number one in pitching. And so it just shows how important pitching is. But, you spend a lot of money in the offseason and you get Juan Soto, which was obviously the big take. And Juan Soto didn't disappoint. He obviously got off to a slow start. But when you finish with 43 homers, 104 RBIs, and you tie for the league and in stolen bases, nothing to write home about there, but 38 stolen bases. I mean, he almost went 40-40. Not that we expect, stolen bases from Soto. He didn't kill us in the outfield. There were one or two plays that I remember down the stretch that weren't that good. But I mean, he was awesome. He was all that we paid for, I think. Pete Alonso, what a bounce back year. Phenomenal year. He led the league in doubles. Second in RBIs, 38 home runs. His batting average stayed up there all year long. I think he finished around 273. And his defense was a lot to be desired at times, especially down the stretch also. But, I mean, when you look at this offense and how exciting it was, Francisco Lindor had another great year, 30-30. The pitching is what I think cost us. And even though the offense was great, it was inconsistent at times. There was still a lot. I think we also led the league in men left on base. Even though it was number one, it could have been a lot better. We didn't hit in the clutch this weekend. You can't lose 2 out of 3 to the Nationals and then 2 out of 3 to the Marlins. Now, I want to give the Marlins a lot of credit, as well as the Nationals. Nationals have talent. They'll be okay next year. But the Marlins are really up and coming. I mean, they have all young guys except for a few of their pitchers. And their pitchers this past weekend were great. Sandy Alcantara was fantastic. He rounded into form second half of the year. but you can't lose 2 out of 3, especially the doors open. The Reds lose. I kept saying, remember, I didn't think the Reds were going to sweep the Brewers because the Brewers don't like the Reds. They're a division rival, and they didn't want to play them down the road, so they were looking to get them out. And they did win that game on Sunday, and the door is open. The Mets definitely looking at the scoreboard, and they didn't score one run. Came close. Pete Alonso with the bases loaded hit the hardest hit ball of the year that was caught. The outfielder was really fast and ran it down. So it was stunning. It was disappointing. There were some shining lights. Nolan McLean, I think, is going to be a stud. Edwin Diaz had a great year, although he may opt out. So you got to bring him back. I'm not sure what they do with Pete Alonso at this point. I think teams now are going to knock on the door and want him a little bit more than they wanted him the year before. I mean, I was a little disappointed that he came right out almost like 2 minutes after the game. Yeah, I'm opting out. So that was disappointing. I think some of this core they probably are going to trade. Now you're not going to trade Lindor or Soto, but possibly if a team. I hope they don't do this because I love when you have long-term players. But Jeff McNeil, Brandon Nimmo, I think those are guys that could be traded. Maybe even Mark Vientos. And I would hate to see that with any of the young guys because they'll go on to be stars somewhere else. But I think there'll be changes. I think they will probably go out and try to get a frontline pitcher. There'll certainly be changes in the bullpen. You have to bring Diaz back. There's not a ton of options out there. And so overall, Kenny, put it in perspective. I know you said you had some comments on the Mets. It was a very, very disappointing year. 83 and 79 is not going to cut it for this team. They could do better. I'll say the last thing about Mendoza. I'm glad he's coming back. I don't like changing managers every couple of years. You know that. I've said that a lot of times. And Mendoza showed enough even this year. Listen, he laid it all out there on Sunday. I mean, Edwin Diaz pitched the fifth and the sixth inning. I mean, he didn't play. When Sean Manaea gave up 2 walks, he was out. So he laid it all out there, but the players didn't produce. The bullpen held it. They did get a few runs. Ryan Stanek was very disappointing, especially down the stretch, and he gave up a few of those runs. But overall, I think that he's a good leader of men. I think you'll probably see some changes in the coaching staff. I know you said that Evan Roberts said Willie Randolph and Carlos Beltran put them on the coaching staff. I'm all for that. I don't know who you take off. I think Jeremy Hefner, who's gone now through a few managers, he might be on the hot seat a little bit. It's the players, though. I thought overall Mendoza did a good enough job to come back, and it's still only 2 years. I don't like changing. I mean, we went through Mickey Callaway and Luis Rojas. Again, I'm not putting those guys down, but you got to give at some point give somebody a chance, and let them grow. And I'm glad Stearns is doing that. So disappointing, I'll say one of the most disappointing seasons ever. I was still sitting there stunned on Sunday. I still thought even in the ninth inning they were gonna make some sort of rally and come back, but it wasn't meant to be. So that's my wrap up on the Mets. What say you?
I want to start with a couple questions.
Yeah.
Now you said you kind of have danced around it a little bit. Would you say this is the most was this the worst collapse that you've seen with the Mets?
Well, because it was so when they were 45 and 24, Tampa Bay came in, and Tampa Bay was starting to play well, and Tampa Bay swept them. Then Kodai Senga got hurt, and then Frankie Montas got rehurt. It was just from that. That was a series that I think was a turning point. It's hard because it was such a slow grind, right, to this awful finish. So it's hard for me to say. I mean, as I kept looking at that team every day, I'm like, can they even compete in the playoffs, with some of these other teams? But, it's always the adage, just get in and you never know what's going to happen, right? So it almost sounds too dramatic for me to say that it's the most disappointing because I've been through a lot, with the Mets in 2000 and 2007, 2008, because those teams had so much talent as well, such as this team. And then you've got a Hall of Famer, Tom Glavine, pitching the last day, which Who would think he'd give up 7 runs in the first inning? It's always the Marlins, it seems like. Um, it's right up there, Ken. I don't know that I could say it's the most disappointing, probably because the last 2 months, if you watched the Mets like I did and most fans did, you could feel it coming. You got these glimmers of hope. I mean, they swept the Phillies. I went to one of those games, and then they would win 7 in a row. Then they lose 4 in a row. They'd win 4 in a row, lose 7 in a row. You know what I mean? You just felt it. So I wasn't shocked in 2007, 2008, and even 2006, listening to that on the radio on the way home. I mean, I was sure that they were headed toward the World Series that year. And, so those 3 years were probably just as disappointing. But this is up there, but it's not the most, I would say, because of the slow fall, especially, in September. You just felt it.
Well, okay, so follow-up question. Do you think that the Mets missing the playoffs is more disappointing than the Tigers not winning the division?
Well, at least the Tigers are in. It is, yes. Because the Tigers at least are in. The Tigers have a chance to move to the division round, right? Today. And um I love that quote from AJ Hinch. I'll say that real quick. Where I think it was after they lost to the Braves in the excruciating fashion. And they said, he said, in my own words, I have no words. I thought that was the best quote of the year. Without putting his team down, he just was stunned. Tigers are in. No, I think the Mets are more disappointing.
Yeah, well, here's what I'll say. I think number one, I think the biggest thing we saw coming even in the off season last year was their kind of like hesitation to add one of these bona fide aces that was available.
Yeah,
Like how would how would Garrett Crochet have been in that rotation this year?
yeah,
I know Corbin Burns got Tommy Johns, but how would you feel about having knowing that he'll be back at some point?
yeah,
Um, and like you looking at this year, there isn't really that bona fide ace in free agency. I guess maybe you can look at like the Padres with Dylan Cease, but I don't know why they would give him up. There might be a couple other guys. Maybe Jacob deGrom is like, bring me back. Um,
yeah,
but I think that's something that the Mets really need to address. They need to get an ace because what ends up happening is you have all of like you kind of get into that weird funk and like you're losing a lot of games. But like where great teams excel is they have that guy that they know every 5 days you're gonna get 6+ innings, 1 or 2 runs at most.
yeah,
And like I feel like the Mets never really had that stopper.
yeah,
Don't get me wrong, the guys that they got like Clay Holmes as a starter all year, he's been fantastic.
yeah. That was a great
Um,
signing. Yeah,
Sean Manaea, pretty good. Frankie Montas, we know that that was a mistake from the beginning.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and maybe the Mets do have that with guys like McClain and Tong and like the other guys that they have coming up, but they need to have that established ace. To me, what is so surprising is like, yeah, the Mets did play awful over the last like definitely over the second half. But what's so surprising is that all of these National League teams, none of them really had that on fire moment. Like in their last 80 games, I believe the Reds were 40 and 40.
yeah,
So it wasn't like the Reds like got hot and caught
yeah,
up to them.
yeah,
They
yeah,
just kind of stumbled into it. And I
yeah,
don't know, it kind of seems that way because they got eliminated very quickly. Um,
yeah.
so I don't know because I do think that they need to at least look at maybe shaking up the core a little bit. Maybe that shakeup just means not bringing back Pete Alonso, but
Yeah.
that would still feel weird.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's
Yeah.
a very interesting situation because they do have the one of the highest payrolls in baseball, and it's just going to be very challenging.
It is. It is. And you know, I think that it's a great point you made. Even the Brewers, after they flew past the Cubs, it'll be interesting to see how they come out because I think in the month of September they only won like 10 games. They were under 500. in September. So you're right. A lot of these National League teams, the Dodgers didn't light the world on fire. I mean, they wound up winning 93 games, which is nothing to to scoff at. But anybody be surprised if the Phillies beat the Dodgers in this next series? I don't think anybody would be shocked. All right, let's get to your Yankees. This is this is quite a nail-biting series, man, so far. And who would expect? We wouldn't expect anything less from the Yankees and the Red Sox when they get together. Did you breathe a sigh of relief last night?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Here's something that is very interesting. Um, do you know the Yankees haven't beaten the Red Sox in the playoffs since 2003?
That- I think you said that to me. I hadn't realized that. But I was also thinking they hadn't played that often in the playoffs of late, right?
They've played three other times.
Oh, they have.
The
Okay.
2021 wild card game. So they only had the one game.
Right.
They played in the division series in 18,
Okay.
and then 2004.
Okay. Okay.
Um, so I don't know. Like, it'll be very interesting because these three game series have all gone the same way since 2022. Only before today, there was only two other game threes. Um, the Mets last year, and I don't remember the other one. I want to say maybe, no, it wouldn't have been the Cubs. I don't remember the other one. But either way, no team has ever won a wild card series. Small sample size, but they've never won it after losing game one. Three teams shot of doing that today. Um,
Yeah.
and I'm looking at the Yankees, and I'm just like, man, I I think they could do it because I trust Cam Schlittler. And also, I think one of the biggest things that will be kind of overlooked at times is Corey used a lot of his bullpen yesterday.
Yeah.
Um, Garrett Whitlock had the most pitches that he's thrown in a game yet this year. I think
Yeah.
45.
Hmm.
So like the assumption would be that he's not available.
Yeah.
Um, they had to get a lot of innings out of their pen. So I don't know. It's going to be very interesting. Um, my biggest worry is the bullpen,
Yeah.
just like it has been.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Luke Weaver was looking more like Jeff Weaver in game one there, and I don't know. You got to get him back into a game, but I don't think you can get him into a game three.
Yeah.
Um, like I think their formula to win would be Cam Schlittler for six, Fernando Cruz, Devin Williams, David Bednar. Um, but man, it was so nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
So nerve-wracking.
Yeah. Now, Cruz is the guy who came in yesterday, right? With after Rodon.
Yeah.
And he was good. He was good. He has a couple of nasty pitches. So he was good. Hopefully they could use him again today. Though nothing comes easy for this Yankee team, man. You have all of this controversy in game one with Jazz Chisholm. And then afterwards he turns his back on the guys asking questions. How do you not have him in the starting lineup, lefty or not? I mean, the guy went 30-30 this year, and he's one of the guys that got you there. I did not understand that at all.
This is a this is the Yankees kind of doing what they've done recently, and that's like they're trying to outsmart smart people when they're not as smart as those smart people. Um, because like I see this a lot, especially with like American League East teams. Like for example, in 2020, when they're facing the Rays in the division series, they go with Davy Garcia in game two. But like only because they didn't want to start J Happ and get their righties in. They wanted to have that full righty lineup or the full lefty lineup and then have J Happ face that. So Davy Garcia open, but J Happ had never done like the piggyback of an opener type of thing. So he was awful.
Yeah.
Um like I understand why Rosario is in the lineup. He was 6 for 9 against Crochet with a couple homers. Um, McMahon is a little bit of a black hole offensively, so like trying to avoid the lefty lane, I get that, especially since the Red Sox have a lot of lefties. But what ended up happening is by benching Ben Rice, who also had a great game yesterday, 26 home runs throughout the regular season. By benching him and Jazz, you reinsert them in the lineup, and then Aroldis Chapman, who's decided that he's the best pitcher in baseball again, is like throwing 102 against these lefties, where if you started them, maybe you can have Rosario come in and pinch hit for one of these guys.
Yeah.
Or Paul
Yeah.
Goldschmidt, who he's probably going to start tonight too, since it's a lefty. Having like Paul Goldschmidt, who like can put up at least a big league at bat.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
I think it's the sometimes the Yankees kind of get too much in their heads and they're trying to like out analytic people that are just like, what are you doing? And
Yeah.
they just need to like do the formula that's worked. We
Yeah.
saw it yesterday. I think what they'll probably do today is they'll probably start Paul Goldschmidt and have Ben Rice on the bench,
Yeah.
which I'm okay with if you're going to put him in a key spot in like the fourth, fifth, sixth inning. But yeah, it's one of those things too where you see it happening a mile away and you're like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, that's gonna be weird.
It's hard, man. I like Aaron Boone so much, and he's I think he's been an excellent manager. I think Cashman would be foolish if he let him go, even if they lose tonight, which I don't think they will. I think they'll win tonight. But man, he is such an overthinker sometimes. Ahmed Rosario, I love him, right? Ex-Met. He's become a journeyman player. And you've got a star here in Chisholm who's developed into a star, and I understand what the stats are telling you, but at some point you could find a spot for Rosario during that game, right? And let him come up as a pinch. He's used to pinch hitting, right? Because that's pretty much been his role the last couple of years, especially in a spot start here and there, and he's very versatile. Rosario, I thought he was going to be a star when he first came up with the Mets. It hasn't panned out, but he's a very good major leaguer. But Chisholm has developed into a star. Um, I don't know if we should go back to Max Fried being taken out, but maybe you have a word real quick on that. It looks like he reversed that last night, and he was sticking with Rodon, and maybe that was because of how quick he took out Fried last night. He'll never say he regretted it, but what were your thoughts when he took out Max Fried?
Yeah, it was kind of the same thing. I think just like the overthinking
Yeah,
and like the doing over analytics, where although I guess maybe it wasn't that bad because his last few batters were getting a little shaky.
yeah,
But like also this dude is your ace,
yeah,
and you already know the bullpen's a little shaky, so you might as well. Like I would have been more okay if Freed gave up those runs and like, oh well, this is our ace. He was
yeah,
getting tired. Like, I feel
yeah,
like people would have an issue with that. Bring in a new arm, especially like if you're looking analytics. Um, oh gosh, was it Rafaela that got the big hit?
yeah,
Has great numbers against Luke Weaver. Luke Weaver is also over 9 ERA in September. So it's just like you're looking at the analytics from one end, but you're not looking at it fully from the other end.
yeah,
Um, I don't trust Devin Williams to kind of be like the mop up guy. He kind of gets a little, he could be a little like sensitive with runners on base.
yeah,
So I
yeah,
don't know. Maybe it's less about the fact that he took him out, but who he put in.
yeah,
But even in that game, number one, he only scored 1 run off of Garrett Crochet against the heavy righty lineup where you're trying to not do that. Um,
yeah,
and then also like a couple of the decisions later in the game. Whether it's like the Judge weird throw. I understand his arm's probably still hurting, but
yeah,
you could
yeah,
tell he's not 100% still.
yeah, yeah,
But then also you have the bases loaded.
yeah,
Why not pinch run Jason Dominguez? Like that's kind of going to be his role here in the postseason. Like
yeah,
get
yeah,
him on the bases. That especially for a guy like Chapman who has a very long windup,
yeah,
it'll just rattle him and
yeah,
hopefully
yeah,
cause him to make a few extra mistakes.
yeah. Um, All right, must see TV tonight. They pushed that game back to 8 o'clock tonight. I was loving the 6 o'clock start, you know. So, it's like an 8:08. But the crowd will be into it. It'll be great. Speaking of crowds, they were into it, but boy, oh boy, it looked like probably another 25,000 there in Cleveland yesterday for that 1 o'clock start. You know, Ken, I don't know if you saw the part in that game, and I was kind of in and out. I was working from home yesterday, so I was kind of in and out of the game. But I did see when the Tiger player gets thrown out at third base, and he's called safe at first. And this happened in one of the Met games. You know, the guy coming home, he turns around just that split second, you know, he doesn't cross the plate before the runner's thrown out at third. And a credit to the umpires, you know, they looked at both. They called the guy out at third, and then they called the guy out at home, which that wasn't the play being challenged, but they looked at both of them. I guess, you know, one has to do with the other, of course. But any feel for, I mean, the bats still woke up. I mean, it didn't turn out to be a close game in the end because the bats woke up towards the end. They hit a couple of big home runs in the seventh and eighth inning yesterday afternoon. What's the feeling like there in Cleveland with the Guardians?
I think they're very excited. I told you this and I'll say it here. I think the baseball playoffs are the best format out of all the other sports. Like I love the MLB playoffs, but something that they need to fix is the start times.
Yeah,
Um, it is very unfair to ask the Cleveland faithful after working so hard to earn this um to earn these home playoff games to have all of them at 1 o'clock.
yeah,
Um, it just takes some of the excitement out of it.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Mm.
at least today they play at 3. So that's a
They,
little
they
bit
pushed-
better. But it's still like
yeah,
if you're talking about like your regular worker, they're not going to be able to get off before 5. And also like if you're working, you're going to be missing most of the game. So
yeah,
um
yeah,
but I think there's a lot of excitement. There's also just like the Cleveland loves playing like the underdog and like this team also like plays such a fun type of baseball. But like if you're facing them, you hate it
yeah,
because it's like
yeah,
they do like 2, 3 run rallies without getting the ball out of the infield.
yeah.
And that's insane.
I wonder where they keep getting all these good relievers from, man. Every guy they put out there is like, and not necessarily throwing, you know, 100 miles an hour. These guys have a lot of movement on, they throw these sweepers and sliders and splitters out of the bullpen. I mean, you know, the Guardians just develop really, really good players. And because the Guardians, again, are now a team that there's a lot of guys that you never heard of, aside from Stephen Kwan and you know Cade in the pitching staff, and of course you know Ramirez. Other than that, I'm like, who's these guys? Okay, Bo Naylor, it's got to be Josh's brother, right? I'm like, but he hit the big home run yesterday too. So do you like the Guardians to advance here?
Yeah, I do like them to advance. I really hope that they do because
Okay.
it'll be a very fun situation here.
Yeah, yeah. And real quick on the Padres Cubs. I mean, the Padres showed what a good team. Potentially, man, that could be a World Series team. I just think that the Cubs. Well, here's why I was rooting for the Cubs, and I've never liked the Cubs, but I'm rooting because I'd love to see Cubs Brewers in this division series, right? I mean, that would be just amazing with those two teams. But boy, oh boy, the Padres bats finally woke up yesterday a little bit, and their bullpen is, I think, out of all the teams that are playing still, their bullpen is the best. I mean, I said that now if they still had Jason Adam, you know, he got hurt a little bit after the All-Star break, but he was just dominant as well. But I haven't figured out why they haven't put Mason Miller as their closer, though. You know, Suarez did lead the league in save, but he's very shaky at times. I know the Mets hit him a couple of times this year, but Mason Miller seemed unhittable. So I do think that it's not going to be easy, but I think the Cubs will advance in that series, and then we've got an exciting division series with those two. Any thoughts yet on Dodgers Phillies?
It's very interesting because I feel like the Dodgers and Phillies play a lot in the playoffs recently. I could be
Yeah.
wrong,
No, no, you're not wrong.
but um, it's going to be very interesting because I feel like the Phillies have been so dominant all year, and one of two things seems to happen. Either it's like, oh, holy crap, we're playing in the playoffs now, and it takes them a couple of games, and before you know it, like the series is over, or they just come out guns ablazing, and before you know it, they're up 2-0, and it's like, well, this is over. I kind of see this series going either way. I could say that and then be completely wrong, and this series goes five.
Yeah.
But I feel like the Phillies have it seems like they're kind of more of a team of destiny this year, where yes, they lost Zach Wheeler, but their starting pitching is still dominant. Kyle Schwarber is still really good at hitting home runs. I feel like they've been battle tested enough too in the playoffs where they won't be intimidated by the moment. Bryce Harper has been he's had a weird year. He hasn't been like Bryce Harper MVP type of year, but I can see him having a big postseason. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going Phillies, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Dodgers won.
Yeah. I hate to root for the Phillies, but I think this might be a year that they go a little deeper than they have the last few years. So I'm with you. I'll go with Philly. I mean, it's we're only a few years removed from them going to the World Series, but it seems like the few years prior after that they've been disappointing, and they just seem to have had an overall really consistent year. I know they were 5, 6, 7 games behind the Mets back in June, but no one remembers that, man. They really then took off. All right. It is going to be quite the day. Try to catch as much of these games. I've got a full schedule, so I don't know how much of these games I'm going to catch. Probably it might work in my favor. The Yankees starting a little later because I'm probably not getting home until around then. So, but I'll try to follow on the radio or whatever in my travels. I know you're going to be Twins. Go to bed. Come on, let's go here. 8 o'clock. All right, let's switch over to football, and I just want to ask you two things. I want to say two things. One is the Jets at 0-4. It is disheartening, but that was the first Jet game I got to watch most of. Monday night started early. It was good, and I was shocked by the amount of penalties that they had. That's number one. Number two, so they're very undisciplined, and Aaron Glenn has to fix that. Number two, I really liked what I saw of Justin Fields. But his offensive line right now is not that good, which I'm surprised at. I thought they would be much better. But he has the ability to get out of there. I don't know if you saw that long 43-yard run or something like that. Um, he's just very good, and who's great is Garrett Wilson, and I hope they don't waste him because he made a couple of spectacular catches. But 0-4 is 0-4, and so we're probably gonna miss the playoffs again. I don't think they're a playoff team anyway, but I'd like to get at least over 500 this year, but it's gonna be hard. They get Dallas this week. I think the other big thing that stands out to me, and certainly I know you'll spend some time on the Giants beating the Chargers, but the Ravens now at 1-3, and it wasn't even a close game. And so those are just some highlights for me. What was some of your quick highlights before we pull up our chart here?
Um, as I didn't watch a ton of the Jets game, but also the biggest thing I saw was the horrific injury for Tyreek Hill. I feel
Yeah,
bad for him.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um, I mean, we knew that this would be a building year for the Jets and also really for the Giants. So,
yeah,
um, but I wished, especially for the Jets, that we saw a little bit more flashes than we've seen. Like they had the great game against the Steelers. It was the fun comeback with Aaron Glenn dancing on the sidelines with the Buccaneers. but they got to seal one up. And sometimes that's the hardest thing, especially for like a younger team, especially for a new head coach, is like not necessarily scoring the points, but sealing the games that you need to seal up.
Yeah.
Like clock management, calling the right plays in the fourth quarter to kind of set your team up for success. So
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the next step, not just for the Jets, I think also for the Giants too.
Yeah.
But with the Giants, I think one of their biggest things is like, oh wait, so this is what a good quarterback kind of looks like. Because I don't think Jackson Dart was amazing,
Yeah.
but he was like the best that we've seen in a minute.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I know Russ had his moment in week two, but like Daniel Jones the last couple of years and any other backups that we've seen, like it's hard when you haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that moving forward, like obviously he's gonna have his rough games. He's a rookie. He's only started once, but having that hope that like, okay, I think he can develop into a quarterback that can be pretty competent in this league is a great thing because you see so many teams like the Browns, they're starting their 41st quarterback since 1999. On the other side, I believe
That's
the
great.
Green Bay Packers have started 10,
Yeah.
primarily three, let's be honest.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. That's great.
um, so like I think that you have to sometimes just go with it. That's why I liked when the Jets got Justin Fields because it's kind of like these you're not taking the next 5 years to see if you have him, but at least you can tell over these next couple years whether or not you actually have something.
Yeah.
And I think the Giants might have something with Jackson Dart. Obviously, Brian Daboll really loves him. He like tripled down and said, "This was my decision. This was my decision."
Yeah.
And also, like with that, he's kind of putting his job on the line because
Yeah.
if it doesn't work out, he's going to be the one that gets fired.
Yeah. He's got
So,
nothing to lose, actually, you know. So, I mean,
yeah,
if the Giants, if this doesn't work out, you're right. He's got his job to lose, but I think he knows that. So, why not lay it all out there? Dart impressed me, but I think he's got to avoid getting hit so much. I mean, he's in there like lowering his shoulder and stuff too, you know. So you don't understand how quickly some of these quarterbacks can get hurt, in the league. All right, let's go ahead and go to your chart. I apologize, I'm slow bringing it up, but I will bring it up. But why don't you start talking a little bit about your categories this week?
yeah. So I had a hard time actually like putting together the names. Um, I don't know why. Usually they come to me pretty quickly. But the bottom one I have as the wild card series. If your team's in this tier, you're more worried about baseball today than you are about football. Um, and I'll just rattle them off. You got the Panthers, you got the Dolphins, you got the Jets, you got the Saints, the Raiders, and the Titans. I think the shocking ones in this tier is the Raiders with Pete Carroll and Geno Smith. It's been kind of not as good as you would hope that it would be. Um, and I know they're in a tough division, and that's kind of also why I have them here. Because they're 1-3 and you're looking up and everyone is at 500 or better.
Yeah,
And it'll get late early in that division.
yeah.
Um, next here, our new quarterback is our only hope. Um, now one of these teams doesn't have a new quarterback, but I didn't really know where to put him.
Wow, you got the
Um,
Ravens there. Wow. Okay.
yeah, the Ravens, they're 1-3. And they're not like switching quarterbacks permanently, but there's a good chance Lamar Jackson is going to be injured
Right.
or is not going to play this week. So, um, starting out 1-4 or 1-5, good luck. And I know the AFC seems a little bit weaker, but like it's gonna get late really, really early for these Baltimore Ravens. I'm gonna pull up their schedule here because it is also a little daunting. So they play the Texans this week, but then they're going Rams bye week Bears. And
Oof.
the Rams have been playing really well.
Yeah.
The Bears the last couple weeks have looked pretty good. I don't know. If you start out 1-4, 1-5, and also like there's a chance that both of these next two games they don't have Lamar Jackson. which kind of brings a little bit of irony because I don't know if you saw that Shador Sanders said that he didn't want to get drafted by the Ravens because he didn't want to be a backup quarterback. Um,
Well,
yeah,
well,
I'll just leave that at that.
yeah.
Um,
I'm sorry. We gotta bring up how he answered the question when they asked him, "What do you feel about still now being a third straight quarterback?" Um, he just mimed it, right? It just lip synced, didn't say a word.
I I need a John Boy breakdown of that one.
Oh my gosh.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
because like, oh my gosh, and like, well, the Browns are next on here, and Dylan Gabriel, he's probably going to be better than Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco's looked awful. He just looks shot. He's not a bad quarterback. I don't think he'll get into the Hall of Fame, but he's had a few like very special moments. But
Yeah.
like Shador, you continue to see like the immaturity in him. Because like I get being disappointed. I get also be feeling a little weird that like you're still the QB3. Because like a lot of times, especially in like situations like this, they move QB1 to QB3. But there's something else that we're not seeing with Shador.
Well,
Whether it's that the Browns are just kind of out on him, I don't know.
I'll say this real quick. You're 100% right. That could have been a moment where he said, "Hey, I'll be rooting for my teammates. I'll be ready in case my number gets called." But it's the coach made the change, and I'm behind him. He could have said something like that instead of reacting the way he did. Period. I mean, he hasn't proved anything in the NFL, so I mean, he hasn't played one down in the regular season yet. So, as quarterback at least. So, I mean, that could have been a moment for him to flip the script, change a little bit of the narrative, and he missed it. So, is what it is.
Yeah, and like you know who did do that really well was Jameis Winston.
Hmm.
He was like, "Yeah, I'm QB3, but I'm gonna be ready whenever they call my number."
Yep.
I think he's wearing number 19. He's like, "I've never worn number 19, so it's just a new role for me. So
Yeah.
I'm here to help. I'm here to cheer on my teammates."
Yeah. Different
And like
character. Yeah.
you just got to have that mentality.
Yeah.
The Texans, they don't really have a new quarterback, but their quarterback needs a new mentality. Um, it's still a weird thing. Like I continue to ask the question. There's no way CJ Stroud peaked in year one, right?
Um,
Um,
can't be.
and like it's gonna start getting late early, especially since the Colts are good this year. The Jags look like they've kind of gotten their stuff together. It could be a very long year very quickly.
Yeah.
Um, the Vikings, I don't know how long JJ McCarthy's going to be out. They play the Browns this weekend, so it'll be very interesting there. But if they need, because also they're in a tough division, they need a couple wins and they need them pretty quickly. Now they play the Browns, so they could easily get that. But
Yeah.
and then last is the Giants. We talked about them. Their quarterback is the hope that they have moving forward. Um, I was close to putting the Bengals in that tier as well, but I
Yeah.
felt weird about putting that many AFC North teams in there. But next one is Jeff Fisher's Rams. Um, Jeff Fisher, when he was head coach of the Rams before Sean McVay, was always 8-8, or at least it seemed that way. So all of these teams are 500, and I don't really know how to feel about any of them right now. The Cardinals right now are the worst team in the NFC West at 2-2, which I think that's probably the most surprising good division so far early on.
Yeah.
The Broncos, I don't know what to think with them. They have a great head coach. Their quarterback's pretty good, but also they've made some weird plays, and I don't know how they ended up where they are.
Yeah.
I guess when I said everyone is 500, the Cowboys aren't because they decided to tie.
At the time.
Um,
Yeah.
Now, my hot take is I hate ties.
Yeah.
To me, especially like in a game like Sunday night where you have Micah Parsons facing off against his new team or his old team. You have Dak Prescott who's still trying to kind of prove that he's actually good. And fun fact, Prescott and Tony Romo at this point in their career have almost the same record.
I believe that.
I think
Yeah.
it's like 78 and 38 and then 78 and 39 and 1 or something like very similar.
Yeah.
I hate ties. We should just figure out a way to force more scoring in overtime. But discussion for another day. Cowboys are kind of there. The Falcons also. The Falcons have had a bizarre year. They're 2-2, and I don't know if they should be or not.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and they still have Kirk Cousins. Like, I don't. Why hasn't like a team like the Bengals reached out and tried to trade for Kirk Cousins
The mystery.
or Baltimore for that matter?
Yeah.
Um, Patriots too. The Patriots also have had kind of just a bizarre year. Uh, Stephon Diggs, I've seen more like headlines about him being a dad
Yeah.
than I have of him being on the field.
Yes.
Um, I don't know. It's weird. The Bengals, a lot of them, the Bengals, like I said, could have been our quarterback is their only hope because they lost their quarterback for the year. Um, but I don't think Jake Browning is gonna help
No.
them
They were
long term.
awful Monday night. I saw a little bit of that game. They were awful.
Yeah, and also Washington's kind of in the same boat. They really need to rely on having a healthy Jaden Daniels,
Yeah.
otherwise things are gonna get late early for them.
Yeah.
Um, this next tier is playoff aspirations. These teams I think can make the playoffs pretty handily. The Buccaneers, I moved them down from the top five because you're kind of looking long picture. They're 3-1. They've had three great wins, but all of their games have been tight. Sometimes those tight games you can end up with a good record, but they can end up biting you in the butt as well. We see it like with a like I think with the Vikings 3 years ago when the Giants beat them in the playoffs.
Yeah.
They were like 11-0 in one score games, but then they lost to the Giants. They lost to Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
So, um, the Seahawks to me are one of the biggest surprises this year so far. Sam Darnold is looking like, hey, I was actually good. It wasn't the system. I couldn't save the Jets.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It seems like they're really good. They're also in a very good division, so I think it shows kind of two things there. You got the Chicago Bears. They've kind of looked like they've turned things around. I think they have playoffs on their mind. I don't know if they can fully get there, but in a couple weeks you got the Bears and the Commanders again. That could be a good chance for
Oh,
Caleb Williams to say, "Hey, I was actually the best quarterback of that draft class, not Jaden
yeah.
Daniels." So we'll see. The Steelers. How is Aaron Rodgers doing this? Like, honestly, like, is it the ayahuasca? Like, what in the world?
I have no idea. I have no idea, but he's playing well. I give him a lot of credit.
Um, and I think most people were like, "Oh, well, this will be the year that they finally finish under 500 under Mike Tomlin." At this point, they need to win six out of their next what, however many games are left in the year, 14.
Yeah.
Like they'll probably finish over 500 again.
Yeah.
Um, you got the Colts. The Colts had a rough loss, but I mean, it was against the Rams, so you can't really fault them.
Yeah.
The Packers too. I mean, you definitely don't feel good after tying the Cowboys, but they're still pretty good. The Jags as well. They just keep winning. I put the Chiefs here because it seems like the Chiefs might be back.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see over the next few weeks, but the way that they scored 37 against the Ravens is like, oh, they can actually still do that.
Yeah.
Oh, and they have Rashid Rice coming back in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
So they're kind of like the sleeping giants there a little bit. So we'll kind of see. And then you got the Rams there. I think the Rams have been pretty solid as well. And then the top five. I mean, the Bills and the Eagles, they got to stay on there unless they lose a game. Even when they lose a game, they'll probably still be on there. They're left as the only two undefeated teams. Right now, that's probably the hot Super Bowl matchup.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because it seems like it's two teams getting there in very different ways. Because like the Bills, it kind of seems like they've been fairly dominant all year, and the Eagles, it's like we're just doing enough to get by and win.
Yeah.
And I don't know, that works, and especially when you're a team that's won a Super Bowl, when you're a team that's had deep playoff runs, you know how to win games, and kind of like on the inverse of like the teams like the Jets where they play well enough to win, but they just don't know how to get to that W. I think that the Eagles have figured it out.
Yeah.
The Chargers, they faltered a little bit, obviously losing to the Giants, but I think they're still really good. I got the Lions up there too. I think the Lions have like there was a lot of teams that you can kind of say because there's always that team where it's like they were really good the last few years and then all of a sudden they stink. And
Right.
I think after their week one, you kind of felt like maybe that was Detroit, but they seem right back to where they need to be. Right now, it's looking like that team might be the Ravens, but I don't know. And then the 49ers. The 49ers did lose, but I think that they were that team last year that was really, really bad out of nowhere, but a lot of it was due to injuries. I think they might be healthy, and a healthy 49ers team would be very scary. So
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah. No, great stuff. I love it. I don't think I have any questions or thoughts. I think what you said about the Chiefs is dead on. And again, I think about, when these dynasties are over, I can't they didn't look like it was over on Sunday. So and the 49, I don't think Brock Purdy is playing this week. But I think I've been surprised at how well the 49ers with all their injuries have played. All right, let me stop sharing that. That's great. And we'll send this out as always. So let me ask you now there I only chose a few games this week. And the first is another Sunday morning game, and that's Minnesota and Cleveland. And I don't know where they're playing at. They're playing in Ireland or
London.
they're playing in London. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Um, Minnesota at Cleveland. Now there's a window there for the Browns to, because the Vikings I think are very vulnerable without McCarthy. What are your thoughts there? And I know you're going to be up early watching that. Even while you're preaching on Sunday, you'll probably still be watching. No, I'm just kidding.
Actually, kind of like how, well, the last few games of the regular season, the Yankees had the score of the Blue Jays in the corner.
Yeah.
Um, all the slides that I have, I'll have the score for
I'm
Browns
just
in the corner there.
you
Um,
think people be cheering for something you said, and the Browns scored a touchdown. Yeah.
yeah, everyone starts clapping.
Yeah.
Okay, it's 14-0 now. Um, this is a very good opportunity for Dylan Gabriel. I think that, um, like the Giants, I understand why they made the move when they did,
Yeah.
but Jackson Dart starting against the Chargers kind of seemed a little like
Yeah.
throwing him in the fire.
Yeah.
But this seems like a very easy one for Gabriel. I don't know how much I believe in Dylan Gabriel. And honestly, I don't even know how much the Browns believe in Dylan Gabriel. But I guess we'll see. I think they have a shot, though.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, speaking of, I put that down. Is both our home teams. But you mentioned Jackson Dart, and maybe will turn out to be brilliant that he got started against the Chargers because the Giants go down to New Orleans to take on the winless Saints. I think they got a chance to steal that one and get 2 wins under their belt here. What do you think?
Yeah, I think they do have a shot at it. The Saints are more like the Aints of the, what was that, the 70s when Arch
What?
Manning was there.
Yeah, the Saints for years were a terrible team, and then for years they've been a contender and a good team. But I think they've taken a couple of steps back on their rebuild here. Dallas at the Jets. Um, Again, if the Jets start to eliminate the mistake, the Jets have talent. Let me say that, and I think the Jets have a very good coach who's really telling it like it is, and who immediately talks to players right away on the sidelines. Um, and Dallas, I really don't. I mean, you have them pegged exactly right. I don't know what to make of them. I mean, they did put up 40 points against the Packers. So, but I do think that the Jets will have an opportunity to maybe win that game and win their first game here. So, we'll see. What are your thoughts?
I agree. I think they have a shot.
Yeah, yeah,
Because it seems like one of the biggest weaknesses of the Cowboys is their defense, which, like, I don't know, if they had a really good inside linebacker or
yeah,
defensive front guy, maybe that would be different, but I don't know. I don't know where you would get that guy.
yeah,
Um, Maybe
yeah,
even give him the number 11. I don't know. But I think that I think because of that, I think Justin Fields can kind of cook a little bit.
yeah.
And if they put up enough, I think the Jets defense would be better enough to kind of stop Dak Prescott and co.
Yeah, I agree. And you mentioned both these teams. Denver, you don't know what to make of them. This is a big 1 o'clock game, actually, and I agree with you with Denver. I think they surprised everybody last year, and now I think they're playing well enough, but I think they can play a lot better. But they are at Philly to take on the Eagles, and the Eagles have been winning these close games. They haven't been killing folks like the Bills have. Thoughts on Denver at Philly? I think that's a really good 1 o'clock matchup.
One of those fun matchups of like
Yeah,
two different conferences.
yeah,
Um, but I still think it's the Eagles.
yeah,
Unless the Eagles show something different, I don't think it'll be a pretty game for
yeah,
Jalen Hurts. Like last week, I believe he had 0 passing yards in the second half, and then they still won.
yeah.
So
It's great.
I wouldn't be surprised if he does something similar.
Yeah, yeah. He's a winner, man. And then the two 425 games I think are interesting. Although I think until Cincy gets a quarterback, maybe it's not. Detroit at Cincinnati, and then the Commanders at the LA Chargers. What are your thoughts on those two late games?
I think out of those two, I'd rather see the Commanders and the Chargers.
Yeah,
Um, I believe Jaden Daniels is going to be healthy,
yeah,
so that'll be a fun matchup.
yeah,
I think both of those teams kind of needed to kind of show, like the Commanders needed to show that last year wasn't a fluke. Because you go 2 and 3, people are going to start saying, "Oh well, you were just good last year because no one knew who Daniels was and all." Um, but I think also the Chargers, like coming off the loss to the Giants, they lose two straight to NFC East opponents. People will start kind of looking at them,
yeah.
and also you could be looking at it and they're 3-2, and then all of a sudden the Chiefs are 3-2, and it's like, oh well, I guess we just lost the division again.
Yeah, yeah. Amazing. Amazing on a random Thursday here, October 2nd. This is such a huge sports day, because I think it starts to get a little bit of a pivotal time in the NFL already, right? 4 games in, and now, going kind of into that next quarter of the season. Weather's a little chillier. It should be so interesting. And then with baseball, today being 3 games, win or go home, it's amazing. It really is. All right, and we'll have a lot to talk about. We didn't even touch on MVP, Cy Young. I guess we'll have time for that as now all of the stats are in, and I will reveal that I have finally made up my mind, and I think Aaron Judge is the MVP in the American League. But the bad news, so I'm with you on that. But the bad news is that I don't think he's going to win it. I think they're going to give it to Kyle Raleigh with his 60 home runs. I don't think they're going to overlook that, but. We'll talk more about that next week. We'll see. We'll see. Maybe they
Yeah,
look at the whole picture like you and I did. For me, I'm sure you're objective too, but I can really look at objective. Although I love Aaron Judge, but um, I think he's the MVP when you look at just his stats all across the board.
yeah. I'll say this very quickly. Um, First, Aaron Judge in like the last 3 weeks of September batted something like 422. Like he was on fire.
Okay.
And then it seems like he lost a little bit of the traction with the MVP race. But I do think in the end, yes, Cal Raleigh got to 60. Yes, it's the best of a switch hitter and the best of any catcher ever. But I think some people will look and say, well, he didn't make it all the way to 63. Um, so I don't know. We can kind
Yeah.
of dig deeper into it. I'll give more of the numbers of how over the top Judge was, but
All right. We'll dig into that next week, no doubt. All right. Ready for some inspiration?
yes, I am.
And I will be relatively fast. I came across, ESPN still, when they want to, they do these 30 for 30s and their documentaries, and they'll have an article that'll just pop up out of nowhere that is just so insightful. And so there was an article on ESPN.com early this week, that talked about how the championship of the OKC Thunder has really helped heal that city 30 years later after the Oklahoma City bombing, which was one of the worst. At that time, it was the biggest terrorist attack on U.S. soil. And unfortunately, we passed that with 9/11. But it was just an awful, awful thing. There was a kids wing, a kids daycare center in that building, in that office building, where several children passed away. And I did not realize any of this as I read through the article. And this is spurred mostly by Sam Presti, who was only 18 years old when that happened. But it really touched him. And he's not from there. He's from Massachusetts. but he's been the GM for a long time now of OKC. He's had a lot of success there, culminating with their championship this past year. And I didn't realize that he still regularly invites families to OKC games, gives them a suite like families of survivors 30 years later. So some of these kids that lost their parents are now, grown up and have families of their own. He invites them all in. He stays in touch with them. In fact, a lot of them were part of their celebration. I never usually watch any of that, so I didn't watch, the parade that they had for the Thunder. But apparently during that parade, they recognized a lot of the victims' kids and that are now grown up and stuff like that. But he partnered with a guy named Carl Watkins, and Sam Presti makes it mandatory that when any OKC player, whether they get drafted or traded, and they play for them, that they have to go on. They have a memorial there, a memorial of the bombing. They have a memorial museum that walks you through step by step of the timeline of when it happened. And there was some miracles of that. There's a great documentary. I forget what it's on. It's certainly not. It might be Netflix that it's on. It's not ESPN, but a document of some survivors, people that survived the bombing. One person that was underneath the rubble, one lady for over 24 hours, and it's riveting and it's fascinating. But he feels it's so important when they go to play in that city that they know the history behind it and how devastated that city was, and that every time that they win a game or like when they win a championship like they did last year, it impacts that city so much. So get this number, Kenny. He partnered with this guy Carl Watkins, and he coordinates for the players to take tours. Since that museum opened up, and I didn't write down the date when it opened. It's been open for several years though. He's done 550 tours just for OKC Thunder players. So sometimes
Wow.
that obviously is one on one, where he takes them on a tour of the museum and there's videos and stuff like that. Similar to like when you and I went to the Negro League museums. It's sort of a museum like that. So I thought that that was a great story. I thought that I hadn't thought that, wow, all these years later, them winning a championship still helps to heal the people that are still going through stuff 30 years later from that awful day and that awful bombing. So Sam Presti, Carl Watkins, the OKC Thunder, inspiration for today.
Wow. I do like that because it's like you have to be connected to the history of this
Yeah,
city in order to be an athlete in this city. I really like that.
but that's great. Yeah, absolutely.
Um, my inspiration today actually comes from Fernando Cruz, which um I'd seen a tweet and I was like, "Oh, that's very interesting." Where because he's been kind of, especially like over the last few weeks, has been known for like having very dramatic celebrations after getting the third out. Like, I don't know if you saw it from yesterday.
I
He
did.
was pumped, and rightfully so. I think he got the biggest outs of the game.
Yeah, he did.
Um, so after the game, they're asking him I don't know how you feel. He's like, I just want to give credit to my Lord Jesus Christ. I was like, oh, interesting. So I did some Googling, and I found like a few different things. So last year's with the Reds. He in an interview there, he attributes finding his signature pitch, which is the splitter. He attributes it to God helping him figure it out, which I always like. Mariano Rivera, I remember said that years ago.
Yeah.
Um, but then also, I saw a clip of him praying for a young man about a week or so ago. Young man that was diagnosed with brain and spinal cancer, and before his game, sacrificing his workout and like all of the preparedness for the game, he's taking time to pray for this young man and praying that God heals him. So,
Yeah.
it's made me like Fernando Cruz all the more.
Yeah.
And I hope he gets a couple other big outs, or hopefully he's not even needed to be used because Cam Schlittler just throws seven and we go Bednar in the eighth and ninth.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm.
but I'm excited for him. I like his role, and I hope that he continues to have a great postseason.
Oh, that's awesome. Awesome. I love that. I love that. Interesting pitcher. He's got some nasty stuff. And yeah, I saw him. He was pumped up. I think the last out was a fly out, right? A line out to Bellinger, and he was pretty pumped up. So
Yeah.
yeah, love it, love it. All right. Well, enjoy today. I know your stomach is in a little bit of a vice, will be from about 8 till about 11 o'clock tonight. But hopefully, because I can't see either one of these teams getting out to a big early lead, and it's not a competitive game. This is just a great series, even though it'll only be 3 games. It may go down as a classic series, right?
Yeah, man, I wish it was a blowout. Like I wish that they would spank this pitcher this something early. Get him out of the game early.
Yeah, I don't think it's happening, but I do think the Yankees will advance to take on their rival Toronto, and then we're really talking about some revenge, right? So yeah. All right, we'll be back next week. So Kenny, take us home.
All right, this is Kenny Square End.
Kenny.
It's Sports on the Positive Tip. We'll see you guys next week. Go Yankees. And go Guardians.